fan, woo, to the final Ask an Expert live stream of the year. And today, as you can see, I'm joined by Coding Yuri. Yay! That is a big yay for me. Thank you for joining us, Yuri. Amazing to have you here.
Thanks for having me, and I'm super excited to answer all the questions that you asked me and that people are wondering about me.
Likewise, yeah. If you don't know, I'm sure most of you do, but I'll do a quick intro anyway. Yuri is a self-taught developer and Scrimba fan as of recently, I believe, which is super cool. So far, her astronomical coding journey has taken her from newbie to technical writer to hashnode advocate and soon a React conference speaker, which is super cool. Looking forward to hearing all about that. Yuri also smashes out top-notch tech content on her Twitter account pretty much constantly. And that account has gained nearly 60,000 followers. And it only started a few months ago. So that's amazing. In this stream, Yuri will be telling us how she nailed the code learning journey, her guide to creating an awesome online presence and why you should do that, and tips for creating content which will impress and add rocket fuel to your career. So welcome, Yuri. Yay.
Thank you.
Super cool. And of course, I have prepared some questions for Yuri, but drop your own questions in the chat. We would be super excited to hear what you have to ask. I'll get through as many as I can. Yeah. So let's get started. So you are a self-taught developer, Yuri, which is awesome. Tell us why you decided to learn to code.
Actually, I think people are expecting kind of like a super inspirational answer, but it was super random. I was browsing YouTube and I saw this software engineer video for a couple months. It was there and it was just bugging me out. And I was like, you know what, I'll just watch this and get it over with. Yeah. And ever since then, I've just been, very motivated to learn to code.
Wow, that's amazing.
Super random, yeah.
Yeah, super completely random. By chance kind of came across coding. So had you ever heard of coding or anything to do with it before then or done anything?
Oh, no. I had no idea what even software meant. I was like not into tech at all. I had no idea what software engineering was.
Wow.
At all.
Awesome story. Yeah. That is cool. So I've seen on your Twitter that you are a big fan of Scrimba, which is awesome to hear, of course. But did you start off in Scrimba or did you come to coding through another route? So it sounds like YouTube played a big part, but what was your coding journey?
Actually, I didn't start on Scrimba. I didn't know about Scrimba until like a couple weeks ago. I started through Udemy, actually. And I don't know. I spent like $500 on Udemy just learning web dev. I spent a lot of money, and that was like my only learning source, and obviously docs. But my learning journey was not straightforward because I didn't know anything about tech. So I started with web dev, but I was exploring like at one point I was like a DevOps. I didn't even know what that was, but I was just exploring. It was very all over the place. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to follow like a straight path. So it was very random and all over the place. Very confusing most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something that people struggle with quite a lot. Have you managed to find a way out of that? And if so, how?
I think it comes off like naturally. Like as you're learning web dev, for example, you start knowing about other, stuff like the back end, if you like front end or whatever. And it just comes off naturally as you're learning because there's the tech industry is really big. So it's not normal to know everything like right from the start, especially if you're not a tech person. So I think I'm still figuring out right now. I'm very into blockchain and crypto right now, but I don't know if that's going to change or, I'm going to keep, trying to do that. it's still all over the place. Yeah.
I think it's okay to explore different interests and see what works for you. So that's totally cool. It doesn't have to be a straight line of learning. So that's excellent.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned you found Scrimba only recently. Do you know how you found us? And what's your experience of Scrimba been like?
I'm sorry. Actually, it's a very fun story. I wanted to do Build Space. You're familiar with Build Space, right?
Mm-hmm.
The NFT thing. And everyone's doing it on Twitter. It's like trending. So I was like, oh my God, I want to do Build Space so bad. And I saw one of the projects. They had to use React, but I don't know any framework. So I was like, oh my God, like, okay, I got to learn React. And that's the first course they recommended, actually, like Bob Zerol's React course. And I was like, okay, I'll just do this. And I found out that it's interactive. And I don't know, it was so different from Udemy, from just watching videos and like tutorials on YouTube. So I got hooked like instantly. I was like, oh my God, like how did I just found out about this? It was a good experience.
Excellent. Yes. Going back to your $500 on Udemy design course, which I believe is Gary Simon, says $500 on Udemy will get you 500 courses. Quite possibly, yes. And a few people saying hello to you from the chat. So thank you very much for joining us. Excellent to have you all here.
Actually, I want to say something to Gary. $500 in Udemy would be $500. I mean, 500 courses, but I was dumb to buy like courses on full price. I spent like $200 on a freaking WordPress course that I didn't even listen to. So
it's easily done, very easily done. Yes. So I understand that next year, I believe it is, you're going to be speaking at a React conference.
Yeah.
Super cool. Tell us a little bit about that, as much as you can tell us anyway.
Actually, I don't know much about it. It's my first time speaking, so I don't really know what to expect. They originally wanted me to talk about a little bit about Web3, but I told them like I'm so new to the platform. I don't really know, I told them honestly, like I don't really know what the heck I'm doing right now. I don't know if I could speak at the conference. And then we had to talk about like technical writing and the stuff I'm doing at Hashnode. So they were like, you know what, we need a technical writing speaker. So you can, talk about that. But I'm still writing my speech or whatever. It's not, I'm still doing it.
And how did that come about then, that you got the speaking position at the conference?
I think one of the organizers, they just DM'd me about it. And
on Twitter?
On Twitter. I got it. All my opportunities, like my job and like this conference speaking stuff, I got from like Twitter 100%, from my online presence. And they talked to me through Twitter and they asked me about it. And I was like, sure, but I'm still a beginner. Like, I don't know if I could, but I would love to.
That is amazing, actually, because I think a lot of people are of the impression that you need to be at some kind of super duper expert level to do these kind of things. And as you're saying, you feel like you're a beginner, and here you are speaking at a React conference. So that is very inspiring indeed. Here is Yuri's Twitter, as you see, joined in July 2021 and already coming up to 60,000 followers, which is pretty incredible. And lots of opportunities, including speaking today, have come from Twitter. Can you tell us, well, let's go back a bit to why you decided to start building an online presence, because I think I read somewhere that you weren't on social media for quite some time. What changed your mind? And how did you go about building such an impressive presence?
So I didn't have social media for like the longest time. I was living under the rock for like 2+ years. And I built a Twitter because I wanted to explain like difficult programming concepts in like make it simpler for other beginners, because I was struggling so much. Like I was reading the docs, MDN, and I was like, what is all this? Docs are helpful, but it's not very beginner friendly. There's a lot of technical jargon, so I was struggling so much. I was like, how the heck would a beginner that has no technical background understand all this? So I got really like frustrated, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make it my goal to understand whatever I'm reading right now, and then try to explain it, because that's the only way I think you really understand something, when you can explain it like super easily. So I was like, okay, I'll read it, I'll study, I'll understand it and explain, and write it on a Twitter thread. And whoever sees it, whoever finds it helpful, that's cool. And if it doesn't, if nobody sees it, that's fine too, because I learned from it. But I think my first post just blew up, and it was just from there is just going up.
Amazing. Yeah. And as Tanya Uncensored says, I love your thread on Web3. I think because you're quite new to it, it might be more accessible to noobs like me. So I can relate to that, because I find it, as you say, reading the docs or whatever can be quite difficult to understand and intimidating. So as the CEO of Scrimba, Per, always says, you only need to be slightly better than the person reading to explain it in a way that's really understandable. So perfect. Another great excuse to get started sharing your own knowledge if you're watching this. Yes.
I actually had a talk with Mike about this. Mike, right? We had I went on his podcast and we talked about this, and I kind of told him that the best time to be teaching or explaining content on Twitter is when you're a beginner. When you're a beginner, there's like a sweet spot between I don't know anything, like you're on the beginner point of view, but a little, like enough to explain it, in a way that other beginners could understand. So I encourage like everyone all the time, like if you just learned something, post it, make content about it, because you will enough to understand it, but you also are still kind of like a beginner, so the best way to explain it to someone else.
That is absolutely right. And we have actually had Mike on this live stream. He was telling us all about tips for Googling and leveling up your career. So you can check that out there. The podcast Yuri mentioned is also very nice. Lots of amazing things on it. So go and check Mike out. Falcon Flare, in fact. Starting web dev right now. What good tips would you give me? Where to start? Yeah. So if you could do your learning journey again, I guess, is there anything you would change or a route you would take?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I learned HTML. I took like 3 to 4 months learning just HTML. And I would say, if I were to do my learning journey again, I would say once you understand something, just move on to the next thing. But because I was trying to like dig super deep into whatever I was learning, and I felt like I was very stuck in digging down the rabbit hole like all the time. So I would tell people, like, once you understand something, same with JavaScript, once you understand like the basics of it, just move on to the next thing. And then when you need to know something, that's when you Google. Don't like try to learn every single thing or memorize every syntax or whatever, but learn the basics, and then when you need it, just Google it. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, I think something I hear quite often is only learn what you need. So as you say, I mean, HTML, it seems simple, but you can get really deep into it.
Yeah.
I can totally see how that would happen. So yeah, as Yuri says, move on and get the breadth you need, I think. Perfect. Various people asking if you've done a CS degree in college. I understood you're a self-taught developer, but perhaps not. Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't have no degree.
There you go.
I dropped out. Yeah.
No tech degree as many people who are successful in tech are the same situation. Perfect. Yeah. So going back to your amazing online presence, can you tell us a bit about the effect it's had for your coding journey and perhaps your career? What has that kind of given you?
Oh, this is easy. My online presence gave me a lot of opportunities I never thought I would have, ever in my life. Before I started this Twitter thing, I actually thought, I was going to learn how to code and then, unable to get a job and just code for, a hobby and just end up working at like a bar or something. I actually wanted to work at a bar before I start coding, just serving and mixing drinks and stuff. But I thought that was what I was going to do, just end up at a bar till I'm like, I don't know, freaking old and just learn coding and then maybe get bored of it. But my Twitter definitely motivated me a lot, like a lot. It made me feel like, how people get imposter syndrome? It made me feel like it didn't matter how beginner I was, like how much I didn't know, it didn't matter. People are super supportive, and my online presence definitely helped me get jobs and gigs and amazing opportunities.
Super cool. I think it's nice to have that kind of validation. Not that you need validation from outside sources, but it's always good to have a supportive community. And I think Tech Twitter can be the place to get that. Perfect.
Right. Because you never know if you're like good enough, so it's nice to have people who are also like on the same level as you. So it's relatable and
they can help you out. If you get stuck with something, maybe you can help them. So perfect. Saeed is wondering, what are your thoughts about JavaScript concepts you should know before learning React?
Okay. JavaScript concepts you should know before learning React. I think I say this all the time, but before you learn React, you want to know JavaScript fundamentals really well. And not just React, just any framework. Because, fundamentals, JavaScript is going to be JavaScript forever. Like the programming concepts are there forever. But, frameworks come and go. Once they become trendy, they might, be popular. But then, if like Angular, if it dies down, you have to like move on to the next framework. But programming concepts are the same. So I'd say, before you want to learn a framework, before you want to learn React or Vue or whatever, you got to have a solid foundation of programming concept, not just JavaScript. Yeah, it could be any language.
Yeah, I completely agree. And some people fall into the trap of trying to learn React before learning JavaScript. Don't do that. Head on over to Scrimba and you can learn JavaScript for free with our 4-hour course. And actually, it's 7 hours. Yes, anyway, free course, which would, I think, teach you all the basics you need to get started with React. That would be my advice. Yes. Hussein, I suffer from stopping and going back. When I try to recall something, I keep forgetting. How to solve that? I think the thing with this is, I'm not sure that you really need to remember everything in coding. I don't know if you'd agree with this, Yuri, but a lot of people kind of fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I need to memorize every JavaScript method or CSS property completely off the top of my head. But I don't think it's really possible to do that, or necessary, actually. What's your take on that, Yuri?
I agree. I forget everything all the time. HTML, CSS. If I don't code it, I forget it. But I think there's kind of this like automatic thing on your brain that when you start doing it, you kind of remember. But I feel like if you want to stop that, you still have to keep on practicing. Like if you don't do it, out of sight, out of mind, like if you don't do it, you will keep forgetting. Yeah,
I think the important thing is that you know the basics of how it works, even if not the exact syntax and also where to look. Even if you have to look up how to make a random number in JavaScript every other day, what's really wrong with that? As long as you know where to do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Art of coding. I want to ask a question. It's been like a year or more since I'm learning front-end development, but the problem I'm facing is learning data structures. It's really the main pain of mine. Any tips? I have never tried data structures. I don't know about you, Yuri.
Same. I haven't.
No. I think one question we have been asked quite a lot on live streams is whether you actually need to know them. And the answer we've come across is you don't need to know them to get into web development, but it will certainly help. So if you're finding that it's really a pain point of yours, see if you can find a way around it. You know that phrase, don't work hard, work smart. Maybe just look for something that doesn't involve it, and then you can learn it later on. Yeah, give that a go. Not a coding related question, but Kapil says, I understand English, but always face a problem when I want to speak fluently. How can I do this? Like you.
My experience with learning a new language is it doesn't, for me personally, reading books and learning the grammar and stuff doesn't really help if you want to speak it. You just have to speak it, like actually speak it, and it randomly just gets better. That's my experience though. Like no book helped me as much as actually speaking it and practicing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's the same as well with coding languages. No amount of kind of reading docs or even watching tutorials on its own is going to give you that fluency. It's about actually doing it. So strange little intersection there. Milo says, I'm super interested in Web3, but there's limited material on it at the moment. Yeah. What resources would you recommend for that, Yuri?
Web3 is super new, so there's very limited resources about it. I'm currently learning about the blockchain on blockchain at Berkeley. If you're familiar with that, I posted about it a couple months ago. I also found this. Actually, Samina Codes gave me this link. It was like a link where you learn Web3. I might send it to you if you DM me. You should DM me, and I'll send that. I'll send you the link. Yeah. It's like a web page where you learn blockchain, Web3, and I don't know, but it's huge. So I'm gonna send that to you. Might post it too.
Yeah, you can post it to me in the private chat, and then I can share it. I think but you can share it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Cool. Danny Thompson's here. Hello, Danny. Yes, Danny has also been a guest on our podcast. Our podcast and our live stream. Amazing that you're here. Here to show support. Question from Danny. How have you utilized your strength in writing to leverage current opportunities in your life? And how do you plan to use that strength to create new opportunities? Interesting question.
Writing, like technical writing?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Oh, that's a hard question. Because, I have a lot of I've written a lot of blogs, and, writing content, Twitter has helped me a lot. And I think people see that, companies and stuff like that, they see my tweets or my blogs, and they DM me with opportunities like, hey, do you want to be a DevRel or a developer advocate for a platform and stuff like that. And I've gotten a lot of opportunities on that, in that area, like DevRel and technical writing. But, I couldn't really do the job because I didn't know enough. So writing about web dev, about the things I struggle with, did open the door for many opportunities, but it was just my lack of, knowledge that didn't get me the job. But I plan to use that as, as I'm learning, I post content. So I feel like whenever I write something, if it's technical writing or a blog post or whatever, it definitely does help me like solidify my understanding of programming concepts. So I feel like I'm learning while I write content, if that makes sense.
It totally does. I think, as you mentioned earlier, when you start explaining something, that's when you might realize you didn't understand it as well as you thought, or perhaps there's a certain hole in your understanding which you can go and look up. So yeah, super cool. And then getting all these opportunities on top of that is added bonus. Tell us about your hashnode experience and how that came about and what you've been doing over on hashnode, and perhaps what hashnode is for anyone who's not familiar with it.
I actually started blogging on hashnode and I really like the platform. Just like I like Scrimba, I started expressing my love for hashnode, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I really love this because it's very like dev focused as well. So that was the main favorite thing I liked about hashnode, and they just reached out to me. Fazil, he just DM'd me and he was like, oh, are you interested in this collaboration? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And that's how it happened.
Super.
Through Twitter. Yeah, through Twitter again.
So what does your role with hashnode actually involve?
So you know how hashnode is a very blogging platform for developers mostly, and I really like hashnode because they're very catering to the community. So my main job was to be the bridge between the community and the platform, and talk about hashnode, and if the community or the people had any questions or any advice, any suggestions, we would be the ones that would take those to hashnode.
Super cool. And I have dropped Yuri's hashnode link into the chat right there, so you can go and check out her articles, which look super amazing. Yes, lots of amazing questions coming in to the chat. There was one here I wanted to focus on. Any advice, says 2M, for understanding database management and SQL queries? I find this the most confusing. I too find this confusing. I do have to use SQL sometimes. I think my issue with SQL is it seems like it's simple, but somehow it's not. But the only way I've found to improve somewhat is by doing it, basically. So kind of what we were saying earlier. I'm afraid practice makes perfect. I don't know. Yuri, have you given SQL a go yet? And if so, how did it go?
I'm so sorry. I don't know anything about database stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Me neither, really. But I would say just give it a go, 2M. And yeah, just keep practicing. Yeah. Oh, Alex is here. Hey, friends. Hello, Alex. Yes. Jonathan, I second Samson Cass's question. I feel like I've been looking for quite a while for junior front-end developer, but I'm not finding anyone to hire me other than for help desk. So what can you do to improve your chances? Well, we have Danny Thompson over in the chat. Danny Thompson has some really cool tips on how to improve your LinkedIn profile, which I will find you right now. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, definitely go and find one, go and create one, and then watch through our live stream. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, definitely go and find one, go and create one. I'm not sure if that's on my end or... Yes, there we go. Yes, I will now find that and help you out. Yes. Also, make sure you have built some projects on your own and you've got something to show potential employers, and not just projects from tutorials. those would be my tips. Yes. Okay, other questions? Imran Master. I've completed a free JavaScript course from Scrimba. What projects should I do now to become good at JS? So perhaps we could talk a bit about your experience of learning JS, Yuri. How did you do it, and what kind of projects did you build?
This is actually very, very embarrassing because I was stuck in tutorial hell for the longest time. So I don't have an actual like good project, because the times I would actually code, it would just be like front-end mentor challenges. I didn't really like build that drum project everyone builds, or like a calculator, stuff like that. But those are some beginner projects you can build: a calculator, a weather app with a weather API. That drum thing Wes Boss has on his page. Oh, actually, you could do his 30 JavaScript 30. He has like 30 projects where you could do in 30 days, something like that. That's very popular. I haven't tried it yet, but I only heard good things about it. But yeah, that's embarrassing. I've been stuck in tutorial hell. So I don't think
there's a need to be embarrassed, because I think tutorial hell is something that basically everyone goes through. Yeah. So if anything, it's quite inspiring that you've managed to create this amazing online presence, even though you've experienced this difficulty that everyone has. So well done to you. Yes.
Let me add one thing. Remember that Web3 page I told you about? I'm gonna send you a link on Twitter so you can post it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Send that over and I will share it. Yes. Here it is. Use Web3 XYZ. That's a very interesting site. You can check this out if you want to go and learn Web3. Thank you for that, Yuri. So let's talk a little bit about your content on your Twitter account. Super cool, really useful posts, which people are constantly saying they're learning a lot from. How do you think of ideas for content to post, and what does your creation kind of process look like?
I talk about this a lot. So whenever I create content or post, is because I was struggling with something. I didn't understand how, you would do a certain thing, or I didn't understand how to a program concept. And that's when I decide to create content, when I'm like, okay, I don't understand this. I'm gonna make it my goal to study this and really understand it so I could explain it and then post it on a Twitter thread. Because for me, I really need to explain it for me to say like, oh, I really understand this concept. If I can't explain it, that means I don't understand it completely. So that's how I create content whenever I struggle. I just try to learn it, and then I just post it for other beginners and get advice and suggestions.
Wow. So a lot of people would kind of run from that feeling of not understanding something and perhaps avoid the concept altogether. I know that's what I do. But you turn it around into something that's useful, not only for you, but also other people, which is, really amazing tip. So next time you're struggling with something, you should think of Yuri and make your own Twitter post about it, which is...
Yeah. I actually talk about this to Mike too. I told him how, it's, as a beginner, you would be like, what would I post? Like, why would I be, teaching something when I don't know anything? But yeah, it's the same thing as before. Like, as a beginner, you should be teaching. There's this sweet spot that, you just learn something, but you still have the point of view of a beginner. So it's just the perfect way to explain it to another beginner. Maybe not an expert, but, you could definitely make it easier for other beginners on your level or below. Yeah.
You totally could. And this ties in to the feeling of imposter syndrome. How have you managed to overcome this imposter syndrome experience?
I feel like I haven't really gotten imposter syndrome like that bad. Like like I struggle, but I never felt like, oh my God, like, am I really, like, can I really be coding? Like, I never felt like I should quit. But I think it was mostly definitely my motivation to code that like overtakes the imposter syndrome. Like I struggle and I get worried, but I just think like I really like doing this, so I'm just gonna keep doing it. So
Yeah.
my love for coding and learning to program is bigger than whatever struggle. But also Twitter is kind of what helped me with imposter syndrome, because I'm very open on my Twitter profile. On Twitter, I'm very open about what I don't know, and people actually relate to that. I'm very open about my code mistakes, about what I don't know. It doesn't matter how easy it is or how stupid it is, how stupid the mistake is. I'm very open about it. So, and people have nothing to say but only good stuff. Like I posted this once, very awful coding mistake I did, and everyone was very supportive. So yeah, I think Twitter, the community, tech Twitter community, was also a huge part of, getting over imposter syndrome.
Awesome. Just goes to show that although sharing your code generally, but especially your mistakes, is a bit scary, perhaps, really sounds like only good things have come from it. So yeah, get your code out there.
And I like how it makes people feel more confident too. Like I share my dirty ass setup as well on Twitter, and I see comments that are like, oh my God, like this makes me feel better about my mistakes or my dirty setup. And that just makes me laugh. I like when people feel good.
That's exactly it, because we all know how the kind of Instagram effect makes us feel bad, because you only see people's highlight reel and you compare it to your own life. So conquering that by showing off things about your life or your setup or whatever that aren't perfect, I think is a really good thing to do. And we should all move towards that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, how much confidence should you have before applying for jobs, and how do you know when you're ready? This question could not just apply to applying, see what I did there, apply to applying for jobs, but it could also apply to perhaps sharing your work online, making content, basically anything. Yeah. In terms of applying for jobs, my advice would be you don't necessarily need to feel ready, just start. And let them decide whether you're ready or not. And if they decide you are, yay, you get a job. If not, then they'll probably tell you what you're lacking and what you need to do better next time. In terms of when you're ready to share your content, I would say pretty much the same thing. Just start sharing. As we said earlier, you only need to be slightly better than the person reading. So just give it a go, Emmanuel. I wonder if that's the Emmanuel from JavaScriptmas. Let me know if it is you. That would be very exciting. Any more questions? Oh, art of coding. I used to tweet about projects of mine, but I was never appreciated over there, and it made me leave Twitter. All I was doing was just wasting my time. I think the thing is, you have to think of the benefits to yourself of doing it, and then the other benefits will come later. So, for example, I started a tech blog, in about 2017, I guess, and I don't think anyone really ever read it. But then eventually that led to me getting a job in Scrimba. So you never know what seeds you're planting or when they're going to grow. Yes. Yes. You're all good here. So back to Yuri's Twitter. You have mentioned that you DM'd the first 400 or 500 people that followed you on Twitter, Yuri. Tell us about that. And firstly, what did you say? And what effect did that have?
The main reason I did that was because I wanted to know what people were doing. I didn't do social media for like the longest time, and I was very new to learning development. So I was like wondering, I'm self-taught. Am I even doing the right thing? So, everyone who followed me, I just send them a DM asking about, what they're currently doing, their GitHub profiles, what kind of projects they did, what were their struggles. And it was just a genuine conversation. It wasn't like the regular, hey, how are you doing? Thanks for following me, stuff like that. It was actually, I was genuinely curious about what these people were doing. And yeah, I was actually very curious about what everyone's doing. So that's why I DM'd them. But that actually created a lot of connections. I didn't expect it to, because I didn't know these people. But yeah, we had, I guess, a good conversation about what they're learning and what I wanted to learn, what I wanted to do. I got a lot of good advice and good suggestions, and I learned a lot from these random people. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, going back to my own journey of how I got my job at Scrimba, it was a similar thing. My husband actually was talking to Pear on Twitter. So you never know when a quick hello is really going to help you out later on. Yes, just go in there and say hello. Oh, it is the Emmanuel from JavaScript. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we are now on day, had to check, 22 of JavaScript, our JavaScript advent calendar. It is day 22, just this door isn't open due to caching. Ignore that. Yes, come along and join. Lots of amazing entries have been sent in, including, oops, wrong one, Emmanuel's, which I will find on our little submissions page now. Here we go. Emmanuel made this super cool snowman. So there's an idea for a project you can build with JavaScript. Whoever was asking earlier, yes, you change the snowman's eye color using this HTML color input. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, back to Yuri. You have mentioned that creating all this amazing content can be quite time consuming. Do you have any tips on how you can speed that up?
Actually, I'm still working on it. I still take a lot of time creating content or writing a single blog post or a single Twitter thread. I think it takes me like 4 to 5 hours to make it compacted and like as simple as possible for everyone to understand. And I'm still trying to figure out that part, how to speed up the process, because it takes up a lot of time. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still struggling with it.
I actually think it's good to talk about that, because I create content as well for Scrimba and for myself, and I completely understand that it takes so much longer than you would ever imagine to write a tweet or create a video or do anything. And if people are out there and they want to create content and they're feeling like it's taking too long, just know that that's completely normal and it's fine. Yeah, you can't rush quality, says Inhu Official. Yes,
Yeah,
that
you're right.
is absolutely true. Yes. Another question from Inhu Official. Do you think DMing people who followed you was one of the keys to your early success?
I want to say, I don't know, but I want to say yes, because, I feel like at first, the reason I gained followers really quick, the first 2 to 3 months, was because I actually took my time to connect with people. I think until I gained 30,000 followers, I was replying to every single tweet every reply and having
Wow.
conversations with people. So, and they definitely appreciated that. Like people loved that I was taking my time to reply to them. But so definitely, yeah, it makes you more, you know, it makes me more likable, I guess, to, take the time to care about what people have to say. But, at some point, I couldn't do it anymore. It was taking up way too much time. But yeah, DMing and replying to every single comment, I think definitely helped to, to create connections with people and connect with them. And, yeah.
And what kind of time commitment was that, if you don't mind me asking? Because I've got 1,000 followers on Twitter, and even I struggle. So I can't imagine if you had 30,000, like, how long that would take.
Oh, I was the whole day on Twitter. Like I couldn't get anything done.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first like 2 to 3 months. I was still learning to code, but I was not coding at all. I was just watching a video and then, browsing Twitter and then watching another video and then browsing Twitter. It took up like way too much time. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't do this anymore if I want to, move forward with my career, I guess.
Mm.
It was taking like way too much time. And I felt really bad at first. I was telling like my other Twitter friends, like, oh my God, like I can't stop replying. Like I actually like talking to these people, but they were like, that's kind of an unrealistic goal you have to reply to every single comment when you have like thousands, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's all about finding that balance and protecting your own energy as well. You can only do so much, so look after yourself.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes. Abdullahi, sorry. How long do you think someone should keep learning and practicing JavaScript until they can move forward to a framework? I don't think it's necessarily about how long you do it for, like a set number of months or weeks or whatever, because that's so different for everyone. We all have different learning speeds and different commitments and so on and so forth. I mentioned earlier this course. This will give you the basics you need to get started with React or any other framework. And it's free. So that would be my advice to you. Abdullahi, go for it. You've mentioned that you're a fan of Notion, Yuri. I'm a fan of Notion too. I didn't like it for quite a long time because I found the UX slightly different to other UXs. Like, you expect to be able to do things the same way you can in Google Docs, for example, and it's slightly different. But recently I've really come around to it. Can you tell us about how you use Notion and any tips you've got, maybe?
Actually, I really like Notion, but I'm not like an expert at it. I just use it however I want. So it's not aesthetically pleasing, or it doesn't look nice. It just works for me. So on Notion, I have my schedule, what I gotta do for a day, a Kanban board, to do in progress or done or whatever. I keep track of my finances on Notion. That's like the main thing. Yeah. I used to just keep it on my head, but that became so confusing. I just had to use Notion. But I really like it. I like how it's very not limited. Like you could basically do everything with Notion.
Yeah, super cool. So is that like a budget type of thing you use it for then?
Yeah, a budget thing, and also just my schedule for the day. Keeping track of my schedule. That's what I use it for.
Yeah, I use it for not a schedule as such, but for basically the main tasks I want to do throughout the day, and then I use the tick boxes. But I don't do anything fancy with it, and I think it can be a bit intimidating when you look at some Notion tutorials and they've created some kind of work of art. But just know that you don't have to do that to use Notion. Yeah, you can just do whatever you want with it. Bruce wants to know, what's your learning style? Do you do spaced repetition? Good question, Bruce.
I don't know what spaced repetition is.
Basically, you learn a concept and then you come back to it after, for example, a week or a month to revise it, that kind of thing.
Oh, I don't do that. My learning style is probably bad. Like I don't think you should follow this, but for me, when I'm learning something, I dive really deep, like dig deep into a rabbit hole. Like I get lost in there. I don't move on until I understand it like 100%. But that's not a good thing. Like when it comes to coding, you don't want to understand every single, thing or syntax. But I was doing that. But that's not what you want to do. For me, there's a lot of people who understand the basics of it and then get like dive in head first into coding, but I don't do that, and that's a really bad habit I want to fix. I want to be able to understand something and code it and just like get lost in coding and Google and stuff like that. But I'm scared to do that. Like I don't do that. I read and watch videos and feed my brain, but then I get too scared to actually do something. So I would not recommend my learning style.
You say that, and generally I agree that it's good to have, especially as a beginner coder or someone new to the coding world, as a lot of Scrimba students are. It's good to have reasonably broad base of knowledge. But then you get people like Kevin Powell, who are, he's the CSS king, even though he doesn't want to be called CSS king, but so maybe for some people, specializing is the way. So if you find yourself with a big passion for jQuery, maybe that's a bad example, but any particular technology, then maybe you can use it to your advantage. But equally, having a broad knowledge base is also good. So do what works for you. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Yuri's amazing cheat sheets. So you made this one, JavaScript array methods, which is very visually pleasing. I enjoy looking at this. Can you tell us what was the inspiration behind making these kind of cheat sheets, and how do you actually create them?
Yeah, I created this one because I was tired of looking it up on MDM.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make a cheat sheet that I want to see, because you know how other cheat sheets are like, I don't know. Sometimes they're not really my style. So I wanted to make one that I actually enjoyed looking at and structure the way I wanted to. So I was just like, I'll just create this and, post it on Twitter. And I'm glad people found it helpful. I kind of made it for myself, really. I didn't want to look up more MDN stuff.
Yeah. No, I really like it, especially the use of colors there. I have shared that in the chat, so you can go and check out Yuri's cheat sheet next time you need to know a JavaScript array method. Yes, I will not be going to MDM for that anymore. Yeah. Praveen, how do you think I can learn to program on the Bitcoin blockchain? Contribute to core? Now, I don't know much about Bitcoin. I'll tell you that now. But Yuri, what's your take on this kind of thing? Because you've been getting into blockchain recently.
Yeah.
How has that been, and how have you done it?
Okay, so I haven't programmed on it, obviously, so I can't really tell you much about that, but you definitely need to have a solid foundation of how the blockchain works and cryptocurrency. Yeah, so I'd say learn that first and then get into coding. I don't think blockchain is the type of thing where you could just blindly jump in and start coding it. I feel like you definitely need a programming foundation before you start coding on the blockchain. So I'd say you gotta learn a little bit of programming concepts at first, and then learn how the blockchain works and a little bit of cryptocurrency, especially the Bitcoin one, because that's the first blockchain. So I say learn that and then get into programming to a blockchain. Yeah. I don't know if that helped answer the question, since I haven't programmed on the blockchain yet.
Sounds like a good roadmap to me. So I hope that has helped you, Praveet. Yeah. Oh, Milo. A senior developer at the company I work at told me to build each project 8 times from scratch. Wow. I mean, 8 times seems excessive.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I can see the benefit of 2 or 3, but 8
Right.
would be, yeah. I mean, we can give it a go. But I would start with 2 and then go from there. I've recently started origami as a hobby, and I'm trying to do every origami shape as often as I need to until I can just do it from my head. So maybe 8 times is sensible. Yeah. I'd like to touch a little bit on dealing with negativity. So you said that on the whole, people have been very supportive on Tech Twitter, which is good. But if you have had any negative experiences, how have you dealt with them, and what tips can you give to anyone starting out?
So usually I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I know it's like a really cold answer, but I'm the type of person that doesn't really care about that kind of stuff, because it comes down to how, like, who you are as a person, and if you're self-aware. So if you're really like a confident, self-aware person that you really know who you are and you're satisfied with that, negativity won't, like, what other people say won't really bother you, if that makes sense. So, you know, for me, like, personally, if I was the type of person who got affected by what others say, I would definitely work on, probably putting my self-esteem up, increasing my self-esteem, if that makes sense. Because once you're confident and you're really sure who you are, that stuff doesn't affect you anymore. I don't know if that's the right answer.
Sounds good to me.
That sounds kind of bad, but yeah, I feel like Twitter, though, most stuff on Twitter or the internet you can definitely ignore. It doesn't really matter. It's not the real world, like, whatever. But there's sometimes it could get really excessive, and it has happened to me, like when a person is constantly harassing you and you block them, but they create new accounts and they keep on harassing you and they contact your job or whatever. But when that happens, that's just something I feel like it's really hard to deal with. You can't just ignore that if they keep on harassing you, and you gotta, like, contact Twitter and talk to them about it and, like, report them and stuff. But if it's not that, I normally wouldn't care about it.
Yeah. Good tips there. To be confident in yourself. I think that is something we can all get behind. And going back to your cheat sheets from earlier, Ian says, top tip there, create the things that you want to see. If you find them useful, other people probably will as well. Yes, definitely proved by Yuri's amazing cheat sheet, which I'm just going to get up on the screen again because I like looking at the colors. Yes.
I tell people all the time, like, don't feel bad about, like, when you create content. Don't be scared, like, about, oh, who's even going to read my stuff? Like, why would someone care about what I got to say? But, there's always going to be someone that's going to benefit from what you put out there. It might not be like 100,000 people or like a big audience, but there's always going to be like at least one person who finds whatever you post useful. So that's my main thing. Like, just freaking do it.
Yeah, totally. There will always be at least one other person that will find it useful. And there's also you. It will be useful to you. So totally worth doing it. Wow. I can't believe the hour is up already. That has flown by. So much amazing advice. Thank you for joining us, Yuri, and telling us all about your incredible journey. I'm excited to see what you do next. I am going to share Yuri's Twitter here, so go and give her a follow to find more amazing cheat sheets, threads, and blog posts and all sorts. Yeah, that would be really cool. And as I mentioned, we are nearly finished JavaScriptmas, but that does not mean it's too late to join. No, there are still 3 doors left. That's 3 challenges. And what? Yes, we are going to be live tomorrow looking at some solutions, coding our own solution, and giving away 1,000 USD to 1 JavaScriptmas entry. Now, if that is not a reason to code, I don't know what is. Give it a go. Here. Yes? Well, thank you so much for coming, Yuri. Really enjoyed talking to you, especially as I know it's very late where you are. So massive thank you, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Bye for now,
Thank you
everyone.
for having me. Bye.
Thank you.